Hi, this is Pete Carroll at the Seattle Seahawks with some thoughts about our practice. The uncompromising core belief of our program is to do things better than they've ever been done before. And this couldn't be more true than when we're talking about football practice. It might seem obvious that as a coach we would say that good practice sessions are important, but our view of practice might be a little different than other coaches. For us, practice is not just something that is necessary for a team to prepare itself for game day. Really, practice is one of the many places where we compete to be at our very best. It's my belief that how we practice makes just as important a statement about who we are as how we play the games. How we practice defines who we are. It's not only something we have to do in order to compete, but our practice is a competitive activity all by itself. Practice is something we want to be the best at for its own sake. As I began to develop my thoughts about this, I recalled a great example to illustrate this point. During the year following my last season with the Patriots, I've been asked by the league offices to critique a youth program the NFL was conducting. I visited two different practices in the afternoon, one in Brooklyn and one in the Bronx. The first practice was well organized and disciplined, and the drills had been set up properly for a youth team. I expected to see more or less the same thing at my next stop, but when we arrived in the Bronx, I didn't have to see a thing to realize that my assumption had been completely wrong. We had parked out of view of the field where the second practice was taking place, but from the moment I got out of the car, I could hear the practice, the whistles, the kids, and the coaches all sounding somewhat unlike the practice I had just come from. Here there was something very different, and it was the energy. As I hurried around the corner and saw the levels of activity and emotion unfolding, I was able to see and feel the energy and the enthusiasm that I lived for as a coach. Despite the fact that both teams clearly had the same gear, the same facilities, and the players of comparable ability, this practice and the one I had just come from were two totally different experiences. From the moment I got out of the car, I sensed that this was going to be a better practice. As I got closer, you could hear coaches speaking in Spanish and in English, but the language didn't matter. The players could interpret the passion, the energy, and the excitement. It was so clear to me that these coaches were the source of the difference. It really just blew me away. You could have put any group on that field with that staff, and the results would have been the same. Obvious passion and competitive desire to play football dominated the scene. I know that if I were a kid on that field, I would have loved this practice. There I was, an NFL coach with years of experience, and it was a youth program that made me realize how crucial the energy of the coaches was to create a great practice atmosphere. It was so obvious that coaches were the factor that dictated and controlled the energy of practice. It was there in the Bronx that I realized that coaches are ultimately responsible for maintaining a high level of intensity for every practice session. Once I realized it was our responsibility to establish the tone and the energy of practice, I had a newfound vision about how important it would be to motivate my staff on a daily basis. I learned that if you want to have great practice sessions, you have to prepare your staff to have great days. That was exactly what I witnessed on the practice field that day in the Bronx. The passion and the excitement that the coaches bring to the field will transfer directly to the players and will allow you to create a competitive practice environment, not to mention a fun one. I declared forevermore that any team I was going to coach was going to practice with more energy and more excitement than anybody in football. If you want to elevate your team's overall performance, adjust the standards and expectations for your coaching staff when it comes to practice. You take the responsibility for the energy and the enthusiasm your coaches bring to the practice field every day. Make every day a great day. Good luck.